Like, I mean, you're not a boss. You're not Mr. Bill Gates, right? You're a guy that is watching me on Twitch. From your position, you should be advocating for this. This is what you should be advocating for. Less work, more pay. Communism. You like the weekend? Thank a union for that. Thank some communists for that, okay? This is the other side of the story that David Dane correctly points to, which is that the only source of labor stability right now, the only sector of labor stability right now, healthcare and assistance, social assistance, is getting at least $1 trillion cut, with insurance being cut to 15 million people. So that growth will bleed in the coming months. A worrisome futuristic jobs report. In the newsletter, Joe Weisenthal says, in the newsletter I wrote about today's labor market data and how it was not only bad, but bad in a specific way that could portend a more ominous direction for the economy. Today's non-farm payrolls report was not good, but it's more than that. There was something ominous about it, or like it was a glimpse into a weird future. Let's start with the data. The actual headline numbers weren't really that big of a deal. Headline job gains came in at 73,000 versus expectations of 104,000. Not the end of the world. The unemployment rate ticked up to 4.2%, but that's what the economists were forecasting, so that's fine. However, there are two mega asterisks everyone's paying attention to. First was the revisions. According to the BLS, the last 2 months of job gains were overstated by 258,000 jobs. Those solid post-tariff reports, an apparent mirage. Shocking. But then also, look at what sectors are adding jobs. And we already covered that. It's healthcare. 73,000 jobs are added in July, and 73,000 of them can be attributed to two low productivity sectors that increase mechanically almost every month as society gets more old and infirm. Everything else is stalling at best. It's actually worse than stalling. As Matt Basler noted, without healthcare, the last 3 months of payroll gains look like this: minus 53,000 and minus 45,000 in June and minus 300 in July. Of course, we know in reality that it isn't just healthcare and social assistance that are growing. There's that whole AI thing going on, which is helping lift the entire stock market to record highs. Yesterday alone, Meta added about $200 billion to its market cap. Everything is so fake, dude. I mean, come on. Come on, dude. Everything is propped up by stonks. Literally. That's the only area there where there is like noticeable growth. And it's completely fake. It's completely fake. It's all a speculation for the future that these companies are going to be completely destroying the existing labor pool. Like, that is what people are making money off of right now. The speculation that these companies that use artificial intelligence, okay, are going to be able to gut the existing labor pool. This is one of the best reasons why I always point to the stock market not actually being a good metric for a healthy economy. Because I always use the example of a merger, right? In the aftermath of like a mega merger, two companies merging with one another, right? Larger company eats smaller company, whatever. There are always layoffs that come in the process. They eliminate redundancies. Their stock price goes up because they've become more efficient, right? They've become more efficient due to horizontal or vertical integration as a consequence of this merger, or they've become more efficient because they've laid off all of these additional employees. So now you have tens of thousands of people that no longer have a job, right? They've been taken out of the labor force. They're clearly not doing better. Tens of thousands of families are now doing worse than they were before. And yet, the stock performance looks great for those who actually are wealthy enough to have been able to purchase stocks in this company are now doing better overall. How can you look at a system like this and still think this is a perfectly healthy way to look at to make an assessment on a perfectly healthy economy? It's not. It clearly isn't. At least stock performance in the past, to a certain degree, was associated with a product that you were manufacturing. You made the best planes, for example, or you found more efficient ways of building a plane. You had new technology, and then your stock went up. Now it's stock buybacks and market manipulation that plays a major role in people's stock performance. Obviously, this past year has been a downturn for Tesla, but Tesla is a great example of what I'm talking about. Tesla is not regarded as a automobile manufacturer. It's regarded as a tech company. So every time Elon Musk comes out and lies about whatever kind of new initiative that they're building, its stock performance goes up. It has nothing to do with the fucking cars that they're making at all. And as someone who isn't like a finance guy, I look at this from the outside and I'm like, how does this make sense? Finance guys try to explain to me like, you don't understand. The analysis is different because it's a tech company. But I just don't, I can't understand it. Like the whole purpose of this, like the whole purpose of any kind of like valuation was supposed to be like what you are making and what, like how much revenue you're generating by selling things, okay? And how much it costs you to build those things that you're selling to begin with. And when you make an innovative product or when you find new technology, right? You are supposed to be rewarded in the market for that. That is how it's supposed to work. And yet, that's not how it works at all. Every company is a bank. It does not make sense. Larger write-offs when the stock plummets is this unproven tech. Regulators on the board. This is not an argument. I'm not simply talking about like what the stock market has become. I'm also like, people will sometimes hear me say certain things about like cryptocurrencies or whatever, or the stock market, and they misunderstand it. Like, I'm fundamentally saying that the way that the stock market has been designed is not an indication of anything but wealth consolidation. That's it. And not even wealth consolidation for Americans either. Wealth consolidation for an international consortium of capital owners. Faceless, lifeless capital owners. Numbers going up for them, regardless of whichever country they're in, as long as they've made this investment into a company, as long as they are shareholders. And nobody else. Everybody else keeps getting fucked in the process. But because we've also kind of created an environment where you feel as though you have a stake in this, because you have a 401k, for example, a lot of people are deluded into thinking that they're doing better overall when the stock market's doing better overall. But within the stock market, the gains are privatized and the losses are socialized. So whenever companies are doing well, it's the wealthy that are doing really well as a consequence of that. And when the stock market is doing poorly, well, then everybody suffers. Of course, the wealthiest suffer significantly less. I don't know. I'm not a very intelligent person, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's not my forte. But to me, it just feels so made up and so fake. And yet people defend this despite the fact that they're not getting anything out of it. Generally speaking, the other big tech giants are more or less riding the same wave. It's great for shareholders. It's great for some workers. Again, with Meta, it's been hiring top AI talent with compensation packages that are in line with professional athletes. But if you ignore this very small slice of elite AI talent, the labor market within tech doesn't look that great. Microsoft has been another huge AI winner with its cloud business growing like crazy. And yet even they've been cutting jobs. The CEO, Satya Nadella, even posted a memo about how the pace of layoffs at his company have been weighing on him. This is a weird state of affairs. Normally when a company's profits and stocks are booming, you just sort of assume them to be in hiring mode. No, you don't. That's it. That's what I mean. Like, you don't. You just don't. That's not. When has that been the case in like the last 25 years? You know what I mean? I feel like that's just never been the case. And this is a, gaming adjacent community. So I think a lot of you actually know this better than anybody else. Company, game developer comes out with a fucking banner prized AAA title. It's incredibly expensive. It rakes in billions of dollars, record high profits. What comes immediately after that? Layoffs. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense. It literally doesn't make sense, but that's just how it's been for as long as I've been at least an adult and paying attention to this stuff. It's crazy. Yeah, Microsoft has reached $4 trillion in valuation after solid results. The only other company that has like a big T valuation is also, as Trump calls it, NVIDIA, right? What's the reason for both of these companies' valuation exploding? AI. What does AI do? They are experiencing tremendous stock performance for focusing their efforts on something that is a labor displacement mechanism. It is shredding labor. It's supposed to work to shred labor. Now, I'm not against AI. I'm just saying, without regulation, without some kind of insurance that when the company tries to become more efficient by utilizing AI, they instead of firing employees, they have to give commitments, assurances to its labor force that they actually just lower the time that employees work and also boost their pay directly adjusted to the output that they have. With AI, if you are capable of doing 24 hours of work in a matter of 12 hours, then you should be paid for 24 hours of work in the 12 hours that you work, or you should at least work 6 hours to do the 12 hours of work now. That's how it's supposed to work. This is, of course, entirely antagonistic to capitalism. You say dream on, but I'm explaining to you something that makes sense, right? Like, I mean, you're not a boss. You're not Mr. Bill Gates, right? You're a guy that is watching me on Twitch. From your position, you should be advocating for this. This is what you should be advocating for. Less work, more pay. After all, your fucking output is higher now. You are making more money for the company. You are more valuable as an employee. Your productive output has grown dramatically due to technological innovation. But companies look at that and go, hell yeah, now we can make one guy do the work of 10. Fuck the 9 other guys. We're firing them. And then the stock market goes, this is amazing. Thank you for firing the 9 other employees and making the one guy do the work of 10 now. We are going to reward you. This is efficiency. A higher profit margin. What a lot of people don't understand is like, you can't all be little capital owners, okay? That's not how this works. Like, everyone has this Sigma grind set mentality where they're like, dude, just you wait, man. I'm going to put that little bit of money I have aside and become a little boss of my own. I'm going to become a capital owner myself. And it's like, that's not how this works. It's batshit insane to me, says Ryan McCaffrey, senior executive editor, IGN, that Turn 10, a studio that has literally never shipped anything less than a great game, Metacritic receipts attached, is being reduced to perhaps a support studio with these cuts. What an absolutely brutal business gaming is. Jason Schreier reports, many of Xbox subsidiaries are getting hit by the layoffs this morning, including Call of Duty studios such as Raven, big cuts at Forza Motorsport developer Turn 10, nearly 50% of staff per source. Anyway. But in this current system, investing early seems to be the only way anyone even has a chance to make it out of the rat race or be super talented. Okay, good luck. That's it. That bug has already hit you. You know what I mean? You've been duped. You've been duped. You've been duped. What capital do you have? What capital do you have? You can't make these major market moves that wealthy people can, okay? You got meager wages and maybe a little bit of disposable income, and you think that that is going to allow you to be able to get into the capital ownership class. This is precisely what I was talking about with like 401ks. People assuming that they actually can kind of game the system to their benefit when the system is designed to keep you servile. and the little meager crumbs that they offer you in the form of a 401k or the little money that you have in your pocket at the end of the month that you can like put back into the market is not making you a capital owner. It's making you fantasize that you can be a capital owner. A lot of people actually get mad at me when I say this because they're like, no, I want to dream. I want to dream of upward social mobility. And that's why people get very upset when I say this. I understand, but I don't think you should be discouraging people from investing. Yes, I understand the issue is at the core. I'm not. I'm just giving people a healthy dose of reality. And it's very frustrating for a lot of people because they look at that and they go, dude, this guy is not a Sigma grind set guy at all. He's actually telling me things are fucked and nothing can be salvaged. Okay, yeah, buy my course on my Discord server to make your money make money, okay? That's it. People would love it if I were to turn around and be like, guys, I'm going to give you the secrets of success, okay? I'm going to give you the secrets of success. Buy my course, buy my course, buy my course, buy my course. We're all going to hustle. As the resident brokey, I made $120 in brokey investments this year, but the day trader Nepo baby made $120,000. Yeah. It's just dumb. So if you think about the current state of the U.S. economy, there's something vaguely futuristic about it. A very tiny handful of people getting generationally wealthy and powerful. A broad swath of people seeing their personal balance sheets improve because the stock market has been so hot. You could argue that the stock market has become something of a privatized UBI for people fortunate enough to have bought in. And then the only areas of actual widespread job growth being in areas that are tied to aging and health, much of which is sustained by widening deficit spending. What we're not seeing is any kind of general expansion activity across the economy. A bad jobs report here or there is not the end of the world. They happen from time to time and people freak out and then they forget about it. However, the specific contours of this moment feel like a glimmer of a stranger, less comfortable future. It's interesting to observe the market today. 2-year yields are down sharply about 21 basis points, as you would expect, because the weakness in the data make the case for sooner cuts and more of them. Odds of a September rate cut are now at 88%. Just yesterday, they were less than 40%. And yet the action at the long end of the yield curve is less dramatic, with the yield on the 10-year down closer to 15 basis points. The market is telling us that over the long term, conditions will still warrant elevated interest rates, even if we're in a moment of stall. In fact, this is generally a problem for both the Fed and the White House. Today's data certainly makes the case for cuts look stronger. In fact, at 8 a.m. this morning, Fed Governor Waller put out a statement explaining why he voted for a cut this week, and the argument holds up well. But if the goal is to revive the housing market or to reduce interest payments on the debt, which seems to be what Trump is interested in, it's not clear that we're going to get much juice from the squeeze on cuts. This is literally capitalism killing itself. Okay? We are experiencing the final stage of Reagan-era neoliberalism in the United States of America. Uncontested capitalism in the aftermath of the dissolution of the USSR with no ideological market competitor basically eating itself alive because every company wants to monopolize. Every company has a tendency for corporate consolidation because that's the only way you can engage in price fixing, you can engage in price leadership and keep up shittier and shittier, increasingly shittier and shittier products, increasingly shittier and shittier services, while simultaneously boosting the prices. Okay? It's like Amazon. You capture the market, and then after that, you slowly but surely raise the prices. And if that's the case, and there's no regulation whatsoever against endless amounts of profit seeking from corporations, and corporations basically use the government like a fleshlight, okay? What is the other outcome here? Of course it's supposed to be like this. Of course this is inevitably going to happen, that capitalism is slated to crumble within its own contradictions. Not to talk about the big guy, okay? But this is it. Because endless greed means there's endless opportunity to seek out profits in areas that the welfare state is supposed to take care of, right? So you privatize those areas as well with the hopes that you can make sure that you can keep returning more profits to the private sector. And then they rinse and repeat the same cycle of corporate consolidation, increasingly shittier products, increasingly shittier services because it's not profitable. Everything gets worse overall for the average person, and people at the tippy top of society, the top 1% that increase their ownership over many different sectors, keep making fake money like the numbers that keep growing in the stock market. Meanwhile, on the other side of that, you have millions of people, tens of millions of people who are now jobless, who have to go into the gig economy to hopefully be able to feed their children. That's where we're at. Of course, people are going to be increasingly resentful. And now, when that resentment reaches a boiling point, you have fascism. Fascism restores order. Fascism creates a different villain, not the villain that actually has designed society in a way where you experience these horrible realities, where your dream dies of upward social mobility. Fascists tell you there's a secretive outgroup out there. For Nazi Germany, it was the Jews, it was the socialists, the trade unionists. For the United States of America, it's the undocumented migrants, the trans people. For Nazis, it was trans people too. It's always how it's worked, and that's the direction that we're going towards right now. Yeah, fascism is capitalism in decay. And capitalism is slated to decay if we just only try to max out corporate profits. Anyway, maybe things will turn around for the better. Who knows? But as long as liberals hyper-focus on their true enemy, which they think is people like myself, saying it's your bosses and it's the corporate profit seekers that are actually at fault for the way that this society is designed, I don't think there will be a lot of momentum in this direction. Because there are people all the way from the lumpen proles, the counter-revolutionary people who think, the temporarily embarrassed millionaires who are actually not millionaires at all the way to the modest millionaires and billionaires at the tippy top that either, one, demonstrate class solidarity because it benefits them, or think that if they actually suck up to the billionaires, one day they too will become a billionaire themselves. They defend a system that doesn't help them at all and actively fight back against anyone who tells them there is a different future out there. There is an alternative method out there. There is an evolution from this previous evolution, because obviously capitalism was good in its inception. It was a better version of the previous methods of commodity production. But it's time for an alternative vision.